Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 378 for March 9th, 2025. I'm your host, Talmaster99. And with me tonight right now is Game Logic. Game, how are you doing right now?
Good. We're running a little behind on the engineering, so we should get it together here in a second.
Okay. And also, DBQ may join us here in a little bit. I know he had some stuff going on, but hopefully he'll join us. If not, it'll just be the two of us. That's all right. So let's jump in to the main GX stories for segment one. First up, actually, I'll take this one if you're still doing stuff behind. I'll do mine first, my solo one. So this past week, past couple weeks, since I wasn't here last week, I've actually been playing Balatro, the much coveted card game. I guess roguelike deck building card game. This is my first time playing it. I know it's been out, I think, for like a year or so, I believe. If I read that correctly before when I was trying to search stuff up for it. You're playing poker basically throughout this game, but you have some power-ups you can do. There's these joker cards that have all different kind of like if it's a flush or if it's a pair or if it's three of a kind, it gives you like extra points and extra chips, as they call it in the game. And then you have all these other cards, planet cards, which I'm not really sure. I don't know, like the decision behind some of these other cards they have in there, like how they're called. But there's planet cards, basically the planets of the the solar system. They can do different things, kind of along the same lines, but they can have like different power ups or buffs and nerfs and stuff like that. And then you have there's the third kind of card. I can't remember what it's called now. They're like one-use cards. I'm trying to look it up real quick. I forgot what they're called, but they're basically like one-use cards where sometimes you can basically use it when you buy them, like from the store, like in between each round as you're going along. So they give you, once again, they just give you all kinds of power-ups and to different things. So you're kind of playing around like that. You get, I think by default, you get 4 chances or 4 each round. You get like 4 attempts to try to get to like whatever the points, like the highest points for that round is. So you start off pretty easy. It's like 200 or 300. So you have to get that many cards or get that many points from each card to get to the next round, and you get like 4 chances. But then, like I said, with these cards, you can get like extra chances each round, or maybe just one round. It depends on what the card's telling you what to do, depending on if it's the planet or the joker, what it is. So I usually get that joker card if I can. I get that one extra try at least, so I get like 5 chances per round. But it's pretty fun. It's pretty addicting. I mean, I know last year it was I think won and nominated for like Game of the Year and just all other kind of like indie awards and stuff like that, or like the indie section of those awards. It won a bunch of those, and I know just throughout the whole year, because I think it came out early in the year. Like I said, people were just in love with it, and I was like, I'm not a big poker guy. Like I kind of understand the basics, but I was always like, I was just like, if it goes on cheap, I might buy it or whatever. But it actually came out on Game Pass a couple weeks ago, so I was like, oh, all right, perfect. I'll try it out. So I've been playing it through that right now. I'm playing it actually. Played a little bit on my PC, but mostly through my Steam Deck. Kind of perfect for the Steam Deck, I think. And on the Steam Deck, there's an official way you can kind of get Game Pass on there, and they even Microsoft has it on their website on how to set it up. It's kind of basically going through like a browser type of thing, but just playing it through that, and as like I said, it's perfect for that. So I just play a few rounds, or I just keep playing until I can't. I lose. I go through all my hands, and I can't. I don't have any more tries, but it's pretty good. I think I've gotten level 20 maybe, so I've gone through like 20 rounds playing through. I don't know if that's good or not. I no clue, but for me, I thought that was pretty good that I got to that high up in card, just because like I said, I kind of know how to play, but and they give you like hints and stuff, and like obviously you can bring up a little cheat sheet on like what each hand is, or how different hands work and stuff like that. Obviously, a pair or 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, that's easy, like. But then the flushes and straights and stuff like that, sometimes it like throws me for a loop. Sometimes I don't know. I just for some reason like it just never kind of clicked for me, poker as a game. So I'm always looking at that cheat sheet just to see what I can do. But yeah, it's pretty fun. That especially that first week I was playing it, I was like almost playing it every day. Now I pretty much play it like it's like every other day or so. I mean, I got like a ton of game I'm going to be talking about later, so or a bunch of games other than my normals, um, Fortnites and Rocket Leagues. I still throw those in there all the time. I just never mention them just because it's kind of a staple for me, unless something big is going down. But yeah, it's been a pretty addicting game, and I can see why you kind of get addicted to it. I think it's mostly because of the Joker cards, because they have all these different kind of power ups. You can kind of go through and you collect them basically, and then on customization side too, you can customize the decks. Not even just the decks. You can customize each kind of cards, so like the diamonds and hearts and stuff. So they have like different other IPs that they've partnered with. A lot of like the indie ones, like Slay the Spire and stuff like that. I think they have The Witcher is in there, Cyberpunk's in there. So you basically make the suit of the card, that character or the characters from that game. So that's kind of cool too, because I like to customize stuff. So that's kind of cool that at least they have that in there. And I was kind of surprised that you can do each kind of card and not just like the whole deck. Like I've played other card games where you can do like the whole deck, and it's just everything. But here you can actually go specifically do each suit. And actually, it's kind of interesting because each suit has different games that you can change it to. So it's not all just Cyberpunk for all the different ones. They actually have different ones for each kind of card. So it's kind of cool. That itches my customization scratch there, so it's kind of nice. But other than that, yeah, just really been enjoying it. I mean, like I said, I'm going to be playing that probably for a while now. So once again, perfect for the Steam Deck. So Game Logic, I don't know if you've ever played it or had any inkling of playing it. I don't know if you're a big card guy or not, card game guy.
No, I've toe dipped into a few card games here and there. I think we've talked about one that now I can't even remember what it was called, but it was like it was something of Fate 2 or something like that. That was on Xbox Game Pass. But yeah, I'm not usually into them so much. But actually, I was very amazed that was it Midnight Suns that had the card battle system in it.
Yeah,
I think you and I were both surprised that we thought that we were not going to like the game because of that card system, and then I was like, this like works like incredibly well. It's really surprising. But yeah, I just I really haven't gotten into anything else of that nature since then.
All right. If you want to stay on the mic, well, I mean, I'm going to talk about it too, but if you want to talk about Avowed, it looks like you were continuing to playing that game.
Yeah, I did want to ask you a couple questions just about Balatro before you jump off.
Yeah.
So when you're playing the game, are you playing against like the computer or like yourself or
you really it's just kind of like you're playing the house, I guess. Basically it's like the dealer. There's really nobody else you're playing against per se, and there's no other, as far as I've seen, there's no like other modes where you can play other people. So
yeah. Okay, so is there anything like bluffing in the game, like as part of your strategy? Like, is there anything you can do to kind of fake the machine out, like, or is the machine kind of omnipresent or omniscient and kind of all-knowing? I mean, how's the AI kind of represented in the game?
Yeah, since you're not really playing anybody, there's no way to like bluff. I guess they kind of didn't put that in there, I suppose. You're just like straight up trying to get whatever there's like points that you have to get to reach each round. Each round. So like I said, I think you start like 200 or 300 points. So you have to, after those like 5 tries, if you don't have that much, that many points, then you just got to start over. That's kind of the rogue, like, piece of it. And then you kind of have to adjust your Joker cards basically, or your other cards too. Basically all your cards, all your non like regular suit cards, to try to get to those point systems. And like when I got to level 20, like it was like, I think it was like 20. Yeah, I had to get to like 20,000 points or something. I was like, I couldn't get that. So, and of course it's, whatever hand you're dealt, of course. So, and I was just getting really crappy cards at that point. So I don't know if that was just like it was just the luck of the draw, or if it was just like, hey, this guy's doing pretty good. Let's knock him down a peg or something. But it kind of seems like that sometimes. Like I'll be doing like really good sometimes, like really good, like for a few hands, and then it's just like boom, like it just put me, they put me down because just the hand is like just crappy. Like I can't do anything with it. So even with all the cards I have.
So obviously, I'm guessing that there's some level degree of learning curve in the game. I mean, have you just been following like in-game tutorials, or have you been hitting like a Wikipedia, or is there like a Discord server? Like, what have you been doing to like hit your learning curve, or have you just been doing the stuff that's in game?
Yeah, I've just been looking at the hints on the in-game, like to give you like all the kind of hands you can do. I know there's like tons of videos out there, like with all the Joker cards, you can like, this is the ultimate, hand that you can do with, this is the ultimate Joker card. I think you get like 5 Joker cards. You can get up to 5 Joker cards, and then 2 of the planet cards. You kind of have like, up in your hand besides your regular cards. So yeah, there's all kinds of, but I don't want to like. It's kind of like when I'm playing even like a shooter and stuff. Like it's like Call of Duty. Let's say, it's like there's tons of videos like, oh, this is the perfect loadout for this gun and that gun. It's like, there's no point in me doing that. Like then I'm just gonna have the gun. And it's like I like to like find out stuff for myself. Like if it's a single player game, like yeah, I'm gonna go look up a video and stuff for stuff like that. Because if I get stuck on something, but when like multiplayer games like that, I usually don't like to look at those videos just because I kind of want to figure it out myself. Usually most of the time, like if I played it for a long time, then like all right, let me let me see what what the meta is, as they say nowadays. And I see a lot of those videos too for Marvel Rivals. It's like, yeah, I know, and I have watched some videos for Marvel Rivals just because there's so many characters in that game. But with this, it's like a little different. It's like, yeah, I just kind of want to like play the game. Like I don't really, I don't really care. And it's just, it's just a single player thing. It's like I'm not playing against anybody, so I don't really care. Yeah. So just checking out the in-game hints. And like I said, I don't. Like I'm not a super, big poker player. Like I know the basics, but just having those little hints in that, I have done that too. Another, I think it was it was one of the VR games that I used to play, where you can do like poker and blackjack and stuff like that. Blackjack's easy, obviously I know how to play that, but poker is like you can literally just have like the cheat sheet like floating in front of you, which is actually kind of nice because I'm like, oh wait, what does this do again? So yeah, it's just kind of I just kind of fumble my way through it, which is fine. Like for this kind of game, it's not a big deal.
All right, man. Very cool.
Nice. All right.
Kind of, I guess one other kind of, is it kind of jumping out to you why this game was a contender for Game of the Year last year?
Yeah, well, for me at least, and I think probably for most everybody, is the Joker cards, just because as you're going through and playing the rounds, and I think I'm not sure it's just like how far you get as far as levels you pass, or if it's how you use the cards, but you'll unlock Joker cards as you progress like through the game. So I think for me, it's like, oh, like here's a new Joker card. And I can, maybe the next time, I get to that level 20, I can try to use this to, get to 20,000 points or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of that.
So it's kind of like there's a progression path in the game, and that's kind of a hook to, I guess, participate in the grind, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of the grind. And, I always like the grind of the games. Like if we're going all the way back to Skyrim and Oblivion and stuff like that, obviously you got to do that. It's different kind of genre, but it's kind of the same thing. There's that carrot out there you got to get, that. So, after I get all those carrots though, that's when I'm kind of done with the game. It's just kind of how it is. Like I got everything. So it'll probably be the same with this. Like I got all the Joker cards. And then at that point, it's really, for me at least, it'll just be like, okay, how many levels can I get to now? Now that I have all the Joker cards. It was kind of like that with Vampire Survivors. You get so powerful in that game, and I was watching my friend play one time. He's like, hey, watch this. And he had so much stuff going on the screen at one point. Like I couldn't even see like what was going on. It's just, he had all these powers that were just like killing everybody, like, in an instant. It's just like, oh my God, like I had never even got close to that yet. So, but it's, something to strive for. All right. Let's go into Avowed. You've been playing more of that, it looks like.
Yeah, and I've got some gameplay to pull up on the screen, so I'll bring that up while we're chatting through it.
Let's say hello to Nate. He just popped in.
Oh, hey, what's going on, Nate? Thanks so much for coming through. We appreciate you.
Said you sound like you're neck deep in Balatro. Yep. Yes, I am. I'm enjoying it very much, even though I didn't think I would be. But yeah, it's a good game.
So, I mean, you've been playing the game as well, and if DBQ pops in, we'll be able to get his thoughts too. My experience this week, and it's a little muddled, right? So there's been some tech stuff going on, but there's also, been and there's also been some stuff like with the game, right? So, hopefully people won't get it twisted if they hear this. They are different things, but on the show we also relate, things that are going on with us, things that are pertinent that I'll talk through. So probably the most pertinent thing to talk to kind of set the stage on the technical issues is over the last so NVIDIA GeForce cards have been getting an unusually frequent amount of updates since the beginning of February. And I think that there's been a convergence of a lot of new games coming out with, hyper-specific driver tuning that NVIDIA has been doing for those specific games, for big releases. Monster Hunter Wild. I mean, Avowed was first, but then Monster Hunter Wild and some others. So that's been going on, but that's also collided with their rollout of the RTX 5000 cards. So it's not, I mean, to me, usually, I mean, it might be unusual if you get 2 driver updates within a 30-day period. I'm accustomed to the battle rhythm being maybe a driver package update every 5 to 6 weeks. And actually there was an unusually long period from the beginning, I think, of December, where there were no driver updates. So over the holidays, they put out a driver update, I think it was beginning of December, and then you didn't see another one until after the new year. And I figured, well, they're holding stuff back for new games that are dropping in 2025, but especially for the 5000 series card. So there's been an unusual number. 2 of those driver updates, and I think there's been at least, so from the beginning of February through this week, they actually just dropped another one on the 5th. So I think there's been 4 driver updates. Over the last 2, my RTX 4070 Super card, so I have 2 in 2 different builds, they have been getting this black screen problem, which was a thing that NVIDIA was supposedly addressing. The symptoms on my first box was that the screen went black during the driver update. I could not get video back, and just on blind faith, I had to hit the restart button. Just figuring that, most of the time with the NVIDIA automated executable for driver updates, if you interrupt the driver update, typically it will recover as soon as you reboot your system, or you just run it again, right? I mean, in Windows has default, VGA drivers, which it will utilize if it doesn't have the proprietary one. So I was a little worried about it, but not too worried about it. So I restarted it, brought the thing back, went into the NVIDIA application, right, and saw that the driver update had been applied. So, but then on the second driver update, and I think it went black screen at one point or other, and I was able to get the screen back by swapping DP ports. So on that card, I have 3 DP ports. The second driver update, which came a couple of weeks later, which is the one right before, I started in the session of Avowed. I got the black screen and I started having problems recovering. I was able to swap DP ports once and get the screen back, but then after that, I was not getting the screen back. Then across several reboots, I would have video from BIOS. So while the machine was booting and I was getting the stuff off the motherboard, I would have video. But the moment it kicked into Windows 11, I would lose video. So that indicated to me that it was a driver problem, right? Because everything seemed fine until Windows kicked in and the drivers took over, right? So I pulled that card, put another card in it, took that card, swapped it over to another box, and tried it. And that setup is a dual monitor setup, and I was only able to get video out of one port. So somewhere in between a driver problem and or maybe that card having gone bad, I had technical problems right over on that system. So that card is pulled. It's actually sitting on the bench behind me, and I'm going to send that in for RMA. So now we're on Avowed. We're in this gameplay that you're seeing now. I have a AMD Radeon 6700 XT in that box now, which falls somewhere between a RTX 3070 and 3070 Ti, but very close to a 3070. So the problems that are applicable to the game is not very well optimized against Radeon cards. That's a 4-year-old card. It should not be, sucking wind like it is. I'm playing it here at medium and low settings. I have ray tracing off. I'm using FSR 3. And I have had to do everything I could to get the game, where it is now. You can see it using MSI Afterburner, where it's like in the 70 frames per second. Typically, where I have it to now, it will normally run between 65 and 75 frames per second. But I mean, on the path to tuning it, I mean, I was getting dips down below 60, right into 57, 58 frames per second, which to me below 60 is unacceptable. So, the game seems to perform well with RTX cards. I was playing it on an RTX 4070 Super before. I was getting frames of like 115, 117, 125 frames per second. I put the Radeon card in. It's really been a horrible experience. The other thing I've noticed now that I have ray tracing turned off is it seems like without ray tracing, and ray tracing in this game is RTGI, so it's ray tracing global illumination. So it's not. I forget what term I would normally use for it, but it's not a more advanced implementation of ray tracing. I feel like with ray tracing, that RTGI turned off in this game, it feels like there's like no lighting in the game, right? I mean, the game becomes so dull that it's really a problem. So those have mostly been the things on the technical front. Gameplay wise, there's some pacing things that don't fully sit well with me. Somebody mentioned, I can't remember who it was. I've been in 2 or 3 other podcasts this weekend. Somebody mentioned that it was very analogous to the pacing problems that were kind of called out with the Outer Worlds. And the pacing problem I have with this is you go through these sequences of like tons of combat and like where the game's really fun. So you're at a really high. But then you hit these points in the story where it's like in a 2-hour session, I'm like in dialogue trees for like an hour to an hour and a half. The other thing I'll mention back on the technical side that's been problematic, with their Radeon implementation is tons of instability. So I had multiple crashes. I had times when I was like deep into a battle. I had died, but I was in the group. I was in the grind, right? I was figuring out. I was like, okay, well, when I respawn, I'll be able to figure this thing out or try the next thing. And then the game would crash. Other technical problems associated with, just what I've always found with Radeon cards is that they tend not to do parallel recording, right? Using the GPU very well. So whereas on an NVIDIA card, you can use shadow play and it offloads that. I forget where it offloads that. I can't remember if it offloads it to the CUDA cores or Tensor cores, but either way, the performance impact when you do background recording with the NVIDIA card is like 1%. But with this card, when you and I didn't use the AMD background recording feature. I was trying to record with OBS. And when you record with OBS using the GPU as the encoder, the video you get is just a slideshow. Like it's completely useless. So I have to record with the CPU, which is fine, except CPU utilization when you're recording is not insignificant. Like when you're using OBS, it can range up as high as 20 or 30%. And depending on the game, if the game is throttling the CPU, where it has sometimes where it's intensely using the CPU and sometimes when it's not, then that could become a problem because you start hitting up against the limiter and then you start getting stuttering video and you're recording and blah, 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 blah. So at some points, I actually had to record. All this recording was done with the CPU with OBS, but on other times I had to try like using a standalone capture card that I have. But I worked around that. But yeah, I mean, the game itself, my main thing is on the Radeon implementation, just bad optimization with Radeon cards. At least as far as that, 6000 series card. Bad stability, right, in terms of just crashes. Game clearly needs better optimization and a patch. When I'm in combat, loving it, right? But it does have some pacing problems with really long dialogue pieces. And when you're in camp, you you wind up talking to your companions, right, to get key story and lore elements out of them. That I feel is kind of like essential, right, to unpacking everything in the game. But so with two companions, right, because now I have I can't remember what the dwarf's name is, and the other guy who is voiced by Garrick, the voice of Garrick from Mass Effect. But so you can sometimes go to camp and have two of those to get through. Then you upgrade your weapons. Then you upgrade or check for enchantments on your weapons. Then you try to go to sleep. Like at this point, and some of these dialogues can be very long, right? Then you go to sleep and you're ready to quickly go to sleep, get up, and go on to the next adventure. But then you get interrupted by this spiritual being that's talking into your head, and that can take a long amount of time too. So, it's a game that I'm having fun with. But like I said, it's just got some really high highs and some really kind of annoying pacing problems. I don't know. How are you finding it so far, Tao? Now that you're kind of hitting the midpoint of the game.
Yeah, I think that bothered me more at the beginning, just because it's like, all right, I want to get into the game. I want to, do stuff and, get going. And it was like, boom, I was just hitting dialogue trees like almost all the time when you're talking to the different people, and not even just, not even side quest stuff. It was just like, the regular main quest stuff, or something would get triggered like automatically if you try to pass somebody. It's like, boom, you got to talk to this person because they want to fight you or whatever the case was at the time. Now that I'm actually in the world and I'm like traveling around, I'm actually doing stuff now. I don't find it too bad now. The thing with the spirit talk, that does kind of get annoying. Like when you're in camp, like I'm literally like, you could just run out of the camp and it'll trigger and say, hey, do you want to leave? And it says yeah, and I'm like, okay, cool. But then you get that, you get the spirit talk. It's like, yeah, those can be long. Those can be really long sometimes. It's like, come on, man. I just wanted to, get in the camp to do my upgrades and, get out and, do my quest that I was doing. But yeah, that's probably the only time it really bothers me is with the spirit voice. And just in that instance, at the camp instance, obviously, you'll hit the spirit too, like when you go to the, what's it called? The Aldra rocks, like those big rocks that you find, throughout the land. And, that's story beat. So that's fine. But yeah, it's just more the camp stuff that's kind of annoying. I did hit a bit of a wall, like a difficulty spike. Now that I'm in the, I think it's the Emerald Stair. It was like the next big section you get to go to after you get past the first big city, after you get past Paradise. First couple areas were fine. Like you fight those little mushroom guys, and they're kind of hard. But I was like, I can get past this. But then you get to a point, or I got to a point, and I think it's through the main story, where I have to go pick up something at a certain spot. And to get there, there's at least, and I tried different ways, but there's at least 4 to 5 big groups of enemies you have to fight. And there's the mushroom guys, the mushroom enemies. But then there's these taller, more humanoid kind of plant creatures that you have to fight. And those guys are just absolutely wrecking me. I couldn't, some of them would even just one shot me and I'd be dead right away. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, I got to go back to, and before I left Paradise, I didn't really there's a whole section all around the city where I didn't uncover. Let me go back, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm starting to uncover the map and just finding other, basically doing the grind, just finding other quests to do and stuff like that, just so I can get my, my level up and start upgrading more, my weapons and stuff like that. So I think eventually when I got to that point, I was like, all right, I'm just going to run straight to where I have to go and bypass all these guys, which I did. I did it 3 or 4 times, but you still where I had to go, you get kind of walled in. The walls close up where you drop in, which is kind of annoying sometimes in games, but they have to do that, I guess, to get you to fight. And I got really close a couple times, and it's just still there's the ability of one guy I'm not paying attention to, and he hits me from behind, and I'm dead. I'm like, oh, come on, man! I was right there. So that's when I decided to go back to Paradise and start uncovering the map and kind of grind it out, which is fine. I like to do that anyways, but I was trying to just kind of, I guess, not necessarily get through the story right away, but I wanted to I was just kind of following the main quest more than I normally would in these types of games. So I guess that shows me I shouldn't do that, at least in this game. But usually it's not bad when you do that, because a lot of times it almost seems reverse in this game. A lot of times you want to go through that main story to unlock different stuff, different things to help you on your journey, and it just doesn't seem the case in this one, at least for me. how I'm doing it, because I'm still trying to do mostly Magic, and I have seen online where people are like, "Yeah, I'm trying to do Magic and I'm getting absolutely wrecked." Mainly Magic, and it is a lot harder to do. I think when you're trying to just do Magic, and I've started to use the bow a little bit more. I'm trying to upgrade that too, as my secondary weapon, my secondary loadout. So, well, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm not having too bad of a time. Still really enjoying it. I'm still jumping on like pretty much every other day or so to get onto it.
Yeah, I'm definitely having to use Magic, right, as an equalizer. In this battle, right, there's characters who leap at you, and they're like right on top of you very quickly, and can damage you. The symmetry of combat in this game when you're fighting groups can just become overwhelming, because you'll be in on melee with somebody, but then there will be two. They could have two allies, right, who are using ranged attacks. So I just found, like, in this sequence here, I found that, like, using, I had to keep my eye like on my Magic to see when my essence buffed. It's super helpful that, like, one of the things I unlocked in the skill tree was this buff that restores your essence whenever you're in proximity to one of your companions. So it's like a slow drip. So that's been super helpful. But I've found that, like, I need to, you've got to move. Like, you can't stand toe to toe with people. Like, when you start getting up into the game, I have to use my Magic to, it's hit them with the magic missile, then entangle them, right, to hopefully keep them rooted in place, and then light them up with the lightning. Then I got to do this dance, right, of just constantly moving, and hitting them from the side or the back. So I mean, the combat's engaging. Like, it's look, I'm sure for the Souls people, like, they don't, they find this, like, simple, but it is not meant to be like a walk in the park. And I don't have it cranked up on like a high difficulty level or anything. This is just like normal combat.
Yeah, that's what I have on medium, I think, or whatever the default is. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely meant to challenge you. It's not meant, this is not like story mode, right? Like a lot of games have now. And like I said, you can get into some really meaty combat things. One of the things I was going to say before I got through a lot of this earlier in the week, is that like the loot I was just very unimpressed by. But you can get into some big meaty sequences like this where like once I clear these bandits out, there is a good amount of like loot and some rewarding treasure that you find. And upgrading your weapons, goes a long way. Enchanting your weapons goes a long way to add to the variance. So, the thing is that the things that are good about this game are bordering on great, and then they just get dragged down, by some of the other things. And I think the comment I made is, they're not egregious link errors. They're just reasons why the game's an 8 and like not a 9 or a 10. Which is fine. But yeah, I'm having more fun, like, right now today while I'm dealing with the GPU configuration issues. I'm having more fun playing the game and the gameplay than I am. Right, what's aggravating me is not the gameplay. What's aggravating me is the hardware optimization, right, with the specific GPU I'm using for right now, to the point where like I've got to do some additional testing to make sure this is just the game, and not the 6700 XT itself. I have dug into like a lot of benchmarks, and I did find a rigorous test of Avowed against a bunch of cards, and yeah, I mean their chart showed that like with everything turned on this game at 1440p, they were getting like 12 frames per second, right? So I mean, it's not it's not just me. And then 50 frames per second was when they had it at like 1080p. So now I do have this set with the Radeon card. I do have this set so that I'm leaning on the AMD Radeon Super Resolution implementation, which means I have the game rendering at 1080p, and then I have it upscaling, which allows it to achieve better performance. But then by the same time, I'm like, great Scott, if I had this thing natively rendering in 1440p, like I wouldn't even be getting 60 frames per second. So hopefully it will be patched and better optimized is my other hope.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think this is probably, other than like Elden Ring, this is probably like one of the games that I've used the dodge more than anything, because it's like, man, wow, like you really, like, those enemies are relentless. They just keep coming at you. And another thing is, I'm glad the run you're running doesn't your stamina doesn't go down when you run. Well, thank God, because it's like sometimes I just gotta get run out of there, run out of the area I'm in, just kind of get myself, just recover some health or recover, my essence or something like that, because they'll just keep coming at it. Like the one time when I was in the Emerald State, I was trying to run away from that one area, and those I was like, oh, I'm good. I turned around and they're like, there's like three guys like right behind me still. I'm like, what? Like how is that impossible? So it's yeah, they're pretty. It's definitely not an easy game, even on normal. So, or maybe I'm just bad. Who knows?
Yeah, it's got some great combat implementations. Like I love the fact that on that other sequence, I'm wielding. I think at that point I was wielding like a mace and a hand axe, right? So I was dual wielding. I'll go back to the comment I made earlier when we started talking about this game a couple of weeks ago. What I love about this game is it strips away all of the impediments that a real like Dungeons and Dragons rule set game puts in front. Because normally in Dungeons and Dragons you get a penalty for two-hand wielding, right? Unless you specialize in that skill. And so I love that this game just lets you use a pistol and an axe and a grimoire and a sword, right? You just do whatever you want. And that's actually critical, right? And for me, getting through this game. So that's wonderful. And I love the fact that it doesn't put so many of those things in your windshield. In the ability to dodge, which works really well, the movement, the traversal, like I said, it's kind of like an orchestra, right? It's kind of like a symphony, right? Like when it has these movements, right, in the piece of music that it is like just hitting on all cylinders, and then it has these ones that are not so great. So, but like I said, I am enjoying it, and we'll continue pushing through it. Part of it was due to the technical problems I ran into, but I mean, at the end, regardless, at the end of the day, I mean, this video is from me pulling an all-nighter, right, playing the game. So yeah, having a good time with it.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know how to say this exactly, and it might come out a little wrong, but I wonder, because they have all these different kind of fighting styles and fighting systems. Like you get, like you mentioned, like they have the grimoires, and they have, you could do regular magic. You got the weapons, guns, even. Um, maybe they should have concentrated on a few, and it didn't seem like some other ones are like kind of like, because I never use the guns. Like I don't think I've used the guns at all yet. The pistol or the I guess it's kind of like a rifle or a shotgun or something.
The arquebus.
Yeah, I haven't used that one at all. But it's just like, I wonder if they would have, everything would have felt a little tighter if they would have kind of just concentrated on a couple things instead of having like everything. Because you can even parry in here too, like with the shields and stuff, and when you're blocking. So I mean, I barely do that, only because I don't really have. I think I use one of the grimoires and I think like a fire dagger right now, so I can't block or anything, so I can't even use any of the parry stuff. I mean, obviously, yeah, you can switch to another loadout or something, but I gotta even use that, so it's just kind of weird that they have all these systems. But I'm still enjoying it though. But I just wonder if it would have been a little bit tighter if they would have concentrated on a few things instead of having everything, like throwing everything in there.
For me, that's part of the charm of the game, right? The jack of all trades approach. Like I totally get you, and I totally I often talk about like, look, you don't have unlimited resources, unlimited time. You have 1,000 engineering hours, right? And so where are you going to put those engineering hours, right? Yeah. But what I enjoy about the game is that, I mean, yea, verily, I mean, there's the possibility that like each of those discrete combat systems is not honed as well as it could have been, but I love the fact that you have access to all of them, right? And like I said, that to me is part of the charm of the game. I have used the arguments. For me, it's just a matter of like what causes the most damage. And so, I'm kind of in Diablo 4, in Diablo format, I'm like kind of constantly, and Borderlands 2, right? I'm kind of constantly switching the order of the weapons in my loadout based on new weapons that I pick up. So, for a very long time, actually, the front end of the game, the arquebus was the weapon that I had that like did the most damage. And then it was like tier 2. So there was a long time where it was my primary loadout and then my secondary. And that's what I would use. And until things got a little harder, I would just stay out, right? Stay out of, being toe to toe with people and just use the weapon. And then as I got a little further in the game and wanted to kind of mix it up with melee a little bit more, I would, pop the first couple of shots and then put the weapon away. But by the same token, I also love the dynamic of the combat, like how some of the enemies come in waves. Because very often, when I have had the rifle armed, it's been, fire a couple of shots upon the initial encounter. Then somebody gets in close to me, or I need to go help a teammate, and so I switch to melee, and I do that. But then as we're fighting, either the dance of the combat kind of moves right within a given battle space, and then you get into proximity, proximity or at range, right, with a new group of enemies, or new enemies start coming in, right, and then I switch back to the rifle. So that, to me, that's a key part of the enjoyment of the battle, right? Being able to, kind of like in Call of Duty fashion, right? We always talk about like using like so many different weapons and so many different loadouts, and that's part of the thing that I've definitely found appealing.
Yeah, I think just one of the last things I'll say is I don't know for you, but for me, like the companions, they like in other games they seem to be more helpful. In this one, it's like they seem to go down like pretty easily, at least when I'm using them. And I have the same two. I have Kai and Maris, and I've had them for a while now. And it just seems like, wow, like where are my guys at? Like I'm getting hit by like 3 guys. I'm like, and they're down somewhere like on the other side of the area we're at. I'm like, what the heck happened? But they just seem kind of weak, even though I have them. I think I've upgraded them, up to wherever I can upgrade them right now. Like you can only go, I think, as they level up, or as you level up, you can level them up. But I have them maxed out right now. It's just like, what are you guys doing? Like, what's going on? So it just seems a little weird.
Yeah, I think
not that I want them to do everything, but it just seems like they go down pretty easily.
Yeah, it seems like it's a mix. I mean, we've also had those games that we've played where it's like the companions literally do everything, and like you don't even have to bother. Like if you just stand back and let them do fighting, like it may take them a while, but they'll eventually take everything down for you. It's a nit that doesn't bother me, but it could be considered a gap that, as far as I know, and I miss things in tutorials all the time. I don't think you can overly direct them in combat. You could tell them to use a special ability, and sometimes when things are slow enough, you can direct them to use that ability on a particular enemy. I find that this combat is way too busy for me to do that like in the middle of a fight. Yeah. So sometimes when we're sneaking up on an encampment, I'll do it, for like the initial engagement. But there are other games. I mean, one of my favorite games series is Brothers in Arms by Gearbox, which is this game where like when you want to order enemies, like you zoom out, like the game pauses, you zoom out to this view, you can kind of direct combat. So maybe something like that, could have made them more useful, but I also like appreciate not being bothered with all those logistics, right? But yeah, I mean, what I accept in my head is that the math of the fight has to be that were they not there, that the fight would be harder. So, yeah. But I will admit, yes, it does seem like at this stage of the game, right? Like every fight we go into, they always wind up, at least one of them always winds up being incapacitated, right? And you have to go help them out. So.
Yeah, and I've tried to help them out before, and it's just like no way, because the enemies will just jump on you like in seconds. So it's like I don't even know how you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's often the case too. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, and it looks like because going into the stair, like I said, I hit that wall with the difficulty. It looks like the enemies aren't leveling with you, which I think is kind of nice, because I like that feeling of okay, I can't get past this area, let me go and grind, and I'll come back and just like wreck somebody. So that's because right now when I went back to Parodies and I'm kind of uncovering land, like I'm hitting pockets of enemies that I didn't see before, and I'm just taking them out like one or two shots, like super easy. So that's actually, I like that better than kind of the Elder Scroll, and maybe even Starfield did that too, where it levels with you. Yeah.
And Destiny 2 does that too.
Yeah, it's just like I don't want, no. Like I know you can kind of buff yourself up too, like sometimes, and even in this game you can cook and make stuff that'll give you different buffs and stuff. But like I don't really like fooling with that stuff. Like I just like to grind, get my levels up, and then I'll go wreck somebody that wrecked me earlier. Get my revenge. That kind of feeling.
Yeah, that is correct. There is no enemy scaling in this game. Enemies are who they are, which sometimes works to your advantage and sometimes doesn't.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on Avowed?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
All right. Cool. Let's jump into our main news headlines. This one was DB's. I'll take this one. This one up here first. Give me a second. Close some stuff up. All right. So up first on VentureBeat.com, we have the resurrection of Acclaim Entertainment. That's right. The old school, I think, 90s and maybe early 2000s publisher. They published like Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, those kind of bigger games back in the day. The company is coming back. Alex Joseph, the new CEO of the Los Angeles company, in an interview with GameBeat, said they are coming back. They're going to start publishing again, but this time more focused on indie developers, so publishing their games. And kind of reading through this article, because there was a different article actually. I think I'd put up. I think it was on a different site. They didn't mention like the people kind of in the background who they have in this company, which is kind of interesting. So they kind of have a committee, I guess, that they have, or an advisory board, excuse me, comprised of esteemed industry leaders, including Russell Binder at Striker Entertainment, Mark Kaplan at Ridge Partners, and Jeff Jarrett at Global Force Entertainment. And yes, that is the wrestler, Jeff Jarrett. I was like, what? Is that really I was like, is that the wrestler? And then I was reading down the article. I was like, oh yeah, it's the wrestler. So he was begun like WWE game, WF games back in the day, and TNA wrestling once he got into that, going forward in his career, which is kind of interesting. Just that he's on that advisory board. But they're going to be focusing on like the PR and stuff like that, and getting these games out there, these indie games out there. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like I was kind of surprised when I saw this. I was like, wow, like what? Acclaim? This is weird. I mean, obviously this is a brand new, this is going to be a brand new team. This is not, as far as I know, there's no, like as far as like, the bigger head people from the same team from back in the day, but this is like a brand new set of executives and all that. But maybe all the other people might have worked there before, but for the most part, it's a brand new team that they're working with here. So I just thought that was interesting. Any comments on this one? It looks like they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna do indie, but also I guess try to work on their portfolio too of games they had back in the day. But mostly they're gonna be on independent developers and getting their games out. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it'll be a tough road to hoe to get on some of their old IPs. The article mentions here that a lot of their old IPs, have been sold off or licensed out, and it may be tough for them to get back. It'll be interesting if they go. I think that there's been a lot of demand and a lot of asking for some of the old stylistic sports types of games. So I've heard a lot of people lamenting, that EA has not brought back the Streets sport brand, which was always a favorite of mine. NFL Street, NBA Street, and EA has toe dipped into some other things like 3-on-3 soccer and 3-on-3 hockey and some other things like that. It'll be interesting to see if they go after that space, since there's not a lot of people piling into it. The company the developer EA bought that does the Super Mega Sports Baseball is kind of in that area, but there's not a ton of other things, and the things that there are very small. They don't get a big marketing push behind them. Not a ton of people know about them. So it'll be interesting if they go after that. However, the downside of this is it's kind of super interesting. It's an interesting time to try and pull venture capital together and get big backers behind resurrecting an old game publisher brand. I don't. It's highly questionable if the industry is healthy enough for that type of venture. So we'll just have to see how it goes. I'm fingers crossed that a year or two from now we're not going over the news story of how this thing has been shuttered before they even got a game out the door. And that's the other thing. I mean, so they're going to be a publisher. They're going to go after indies. Hopefully that will allow them to actually start producing something, and we're not like 5 years away from seeing something with the Acclaim publisher brand on it.
Yeah, I think because of the publishing thing, like they might have a little bit of a better time to get games out there instead of actually trying to develop stuff. And looking at their like catalog of games, though, I mean, it looked like they had like a lot of like IP, like famous IP based stuff like that. They had a lot of Marvel stuff and Terminator and like all these movies and stuff. So obviously that stuff they're probably not gonna be able to do. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting looking back at their back catalog. It's like, wow, they did publish all those games that day. So it was kind of interesting to see, other than just like obviously Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam. And I think one of their Iguana Entertainment was another one that they published a lot of games through too. So it was kind of interesting to go back and look at that kind of history of what they published. So all right, you want to take us into the next news story?
Sure. This news story over on GameIndustry.biz by Sophie McAvoy. French Supreme Court rules in favor of Nintendo against site hosting pirated copies of its games. Nintendo has won a long-running legal battle against French share hosting operator D-Storage. Following a decision dated February 26, 2025, the French Supreme Court found D-Storage. It's very interesting that that's how far the case went, that it got all the way to the Supreme Court of the nation. Following a decision dated February 26, 2025, the French Supreme Court found D-Storage liable for failing to remove access to unauthorized copies of Nintendo games stored on its platform, referring to the file hosting site onefichier.com. This decision means other European-based file sharing sites must remove pirated copies of games when asked, or face legal action and potential fines. Look, I just talked a little bit about like the investment environment in the gaming space. I would also say now is not a good time to be treading on Nintendo's IP. They are clearly on and about something as they're about to roll out the Nintendo Switch 2. They are clearly aggressively disinterested in anybody doing anything that gets in the space that it appears like they're going to get into, whether that be with emulation, whether that be with bringing back the virtual shop. What was the thing called?
The virtual store, I think virtual console. I think it was
virtual console. Yes.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's going to be like a big push, leaning on Nintendo Switch Online, whether or not there's going to be like a new business model to Nintendo Switch Online, like they're still going to have like, the console oriented subscription access portals, but then maybe allowing you to maybe buy games through that same mechanism. I don't know, but like, look, if you stick your head out of the groundhog hole, right, and are doing anything of suspect, I mean, they're going after it, and like on an international scale, courts are backing them, right? I mean, it also speaks, highly of the Nintendo legal team, but I would also say this is an environment where clearly, like, legal philosophy, legal proxy in all nations is also aligned to help Nintendo protect their IP. So, any comments on this one from your side?
No, I mean, yeah, I saw this one too during the week, and I just, I mean, they're on, like you said, they're on something. So I mean, they're about to announce or give more details, I should say, on their new system, and they're doing all this other stuff, and hopefully they do bring back the virtual console, because it definitely was a lot better than what they have now. It's just, but we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, and at the end of the article here is just a grocery shopping list of like people that they're currently going after, people that they have taken down recently. Like it's becoming a whole rogues gallery, of bad actors. So definitely time to maybe tread on somebody else's IP, not Nintendo's.
Yeah, no. All right, you want to take us into some RTX 50 news here?
Yeah, I'll bring that article up too. This news story over on Kit Guru by Zhao Silva. NVIDIA RTX 50 laptop GPU series also affected by missing ropes issue. And again, ropes are render output processors. This extra scrutiny comes in response to NVIDIA's request to inspect RTX 50 laptop GPUs, which, according to Heisvia video cards, are believed to originate from the same production line as the affected desktop models. Moreover, the same report states that laptop manufacturers are now working extended hours to prevent complications with their upcoming laptops. The RTX 50 powered laptops initially unveiled at CES 2025 have faced delays, with pre-orders pushed back from late March to April. It's unclear whether laptop manufacturers will be able to meet these revised deadlines, and the delay could have broader implications, impacting production schedules for Intel, AMD, and other companies involved in the laptop supply chain. So kind of going back over how the story has unfolded over the last few weeks, we talked about last week how basically every product line of that NVIDIA is rolling out at this point, so the 5070s, 5080s, and the 5090s have been found out in the wild to have missing render output processors, which has had any range of impact on performance. In some cases, it has been held to about 4%. In other cases, I've heard it being reported as when people benchmark it having a 15% hit. The figure for manufacturing defect that NVIDIA has put out here is that it's on the order of magnitude of 0.4% or 0.5%. But I think that they have only ascribed that with certainty to either the 5080 line or the 5090 line. So it is possible that the other production lines have also been impacted and that it's perhaps larger. I don't know. In general, what I've said on social media, on Twitter is like, look, unless you have years of experience being an early adopter and dealing with the types of things that we have to deal with, or you just have the stomach for RMAing a video card. I related my own video card issue this morning. That is something that I have a stomach for because I have tons of spare GPUs, right? And because a loss of a GPU doesn't take me down at the knees, right, and make me unable to game. If you have one PC and you're going to have your one GPU, or you're building a new PC and you're going after one of these RTX 5000 cards and you have to RMA it, then that becomes a thing. So my overall recommendation is just stay out of the waters on this thing. Hopefully by mid to late May, early summer, this will have all been cleared up. The production pipeline will have been flushed of wherever the manufacturing defect exists. It will have been isolated, and they will hopefully kind of knock it off. What this story is obviously detailing is that now they're seeing that some laptops have also been hit, and so now there's a revised level of effort that's going on out at the laptop manufacturers to inspect all of these laptop GPUs that they have and fix the ones that have the defect. So again, it's very small, but it's not insignificant. And I don't play based on percentages. I play based on the margins, meaning, I'm personally not going to roll the dice and bank on, that I'm not in the 99.5% of the pool that is not affected. I'm gonna assume that I could be one of the 0.5% that are affected and therefore don't want to play. But everybody's stomach for that is going to be different. It is interesting because I think we are starting to see, as I talked about tonight, as I'll talk about a little bit when we talk about Monster Hunter Wilds, I think we're starting to hit the point where 3000 series cards are starting to see games that may start poking at you, incentivizing you to upgrade. And for many people, this will be the natural progression path for upgrading, right? And it's got problems. So
yeah, I got the 30 RTX 3070, and for the most part, I can pretty much hit kind of ultra. Sometimes a lot of times I'll put the shadows down on everything because I don't really shadows, except for sometimes on shooters because you can kind of see people coming. But for the most part, I'll put that stuff down. But I haven't really run into anything yet that would put me down below a high, the high benchmark there as far as graphics and stuff. So I'm sure it's coming though. And looking at Monster Hunter Wilds, I mean, you'll probably talk about it more. That looks like it's going to be pretty intensive because the animation there just looks unbelievable. So I can only imagine what that means. But yeah, unfortunately, it's going to happen eventually. I'm going to have to figure that out. But I already bought a power supply though. I do one. I got to still put on my PC. So I'm already starting to think ahead. And so I know it's coming. So I got to think ahead. But okay, let's jump into our last news story for the night. This one is from GameDeveloper.com. Excuse me, from Justin Carter. Respawn lays off staff, cancels another unannounced game. So the Apex Legends developer Respawn Entertainment laid off several developers earlier this week and canceled a unannounced incubated project. According to RGN, a small number of employees were laid off as part of the project end. At least one of these exits was voluntary, but a former executive assistant in a now deleted LinkedIn post revealed the project she had been attached to since 2024 was canceled also. Just kind of jumping through here. The first reported game was a single player game set in the same universe as Titanfall and Apex Legends, codenamed Titanfall Legends. That was canceled back in 2023 during a weak financial quarter because its director Mohammed Alavi left the studio a year prior, and then in last year they canceled a single player Star Wars action FPS game alongside shuttering of the Battlefield developer Ridgeline Games, and both were a casualty of a 5% staff reduction across EA's workforce. Not much is known about the canceled game. According to journalist Jeff Grubb, it was being handled by the team behind the Star Wars game. Respawn's last major release was 2023's Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and that was also released on last-gen consoles, so that was last year. So, just try to see. Along with the third Jedi game, which will be the first entry without director Stig Asmussen at the helm, Respawn is helping develop a Star Wars strategy title, which I kind of forgot about that one. That's being developed by a Bit Reactor. That's been unaffected, and it's since it's cut back in 2024. So that seems like that one's still has a green light, at least for now. So unfortunately, we got to end on another sour note, another closing, and people getting laid off. But it's kind of like they said during that Acclaim game, it's kind of a weird time. All these studios closing and stuff like that. But at least but when we see these studios close and get shuttered or whatever happens to them, we do see, and maybe it's not reported as much, or maybe it just doesn't happen as much, but there are a lot of times where I've seen people kind of come together and they'll create a new studio in the ashes of the old one. But then at that point you're the indie studio, so you kind of have to fight and scrap your way up. But it's interesting. But I mean, obviously this was never announced, this game, so it's kind of like, okay, it was canceled, but like no one really know or knew about it. But it still kind of stinks that people were laid off and everything like that. But any comments on that one?
Nope, I don't have anything on that one.
All right. So let's jump into our round robin. So first up, I was playing a little bit of Call of Duty kind of late in the week last week, and I did finally get to prestige level 5, or well, I got past prestige level 5, so I'm 6 now. So I think that's definitely the highest I've ever prestige in a Call of Duty game. So I've never been that high before. So yeah, just kind of chugging along with that. They got the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of crossover going right now. I haven't played any of those. I don't know if there's actually like an LTM. I know there's like a Mosh Pit TMNT. I don't know if there's like a special game mode. I don't know if you've played those or not at all.
No, I mean, I really dipped out of Call of Duty, mid-season of season 2, this ongoing season, and probably won't be back. But that last vestige, what I did see, because BBQ and I talked about it a little bit before, I think on a show you weren't on, and as far as I can tell, those are just packs in the store. I didn't notice that there was any special like LTM associated with them, unlike like when Cheech and Chong, right? They were packs, but then it had that weird psychedelic level with like the raising floors and like the neon lighting and stuff like that. Escalation or maybe something, I don't know. But I didn't notice anything like that in with the TMNT rollout.
Okay. Yeah. And because they have like a it's not a battle pass, it's actually free, but there's like another tier of like progression you can get just for the TMNT stuff. Actually, I think there is a premium battle pass thing for that. Now that I think about it, because I think people were pissed off about that. So, but there's also a free tier that you can kind of go through and unlock stuff.
Yeah, they had the same thing with Squid Game, which kind of helps balance out, because I mean, what I noticed while I was playing this year is that like the progression seems to have been slowed down just a tad. So that helps compensate for it, right? And giving people some unlocks that don't feel as stingy.
Yeah, yeah. I think you get a couple foot soldiers, cost character skins with this one, and then I think on the premium one, if you finish it, you get Splinter at the end of that. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. Okay. Looks like you've been playing some Civ 7 on PC.
Yeah, so this is a game that just so happens I was playing on the other box that had the 4070 Super in it, and I got a little bit of black screening there too. Fortunately, it came back much in the same way that the other box did the first time that I got the black screens. I just did a reboot theoretically after the drivers had been applied, and it came back. So hopefully it won't do the same thing that the other box did, which is the second time, right? I couldn't get, I got black screens, the second play session on that one, when I got black screens, I couldn't recover. So hopefully that was just a one and done instance. But yeah, kind of similar to what I talked about the first time. I'm deeper into the scenario that I'm playing there, where I am Frederic of Prussia leading the Romans, fighting Isabella leading the Egyptians. I'm closing in on the end of the age, so I've made it through about 80%, 84% of the progression through that age. I'm starting to get a lot of anarchy in a lot of my cities, a lot of my towns, actually, because that's one of the things I discovered. All settlements become towns, and then there is a pay to upgrade them to cities thing, like in the game now. They won't just naturally progress to cities on their own, so that's something you have to manage. But I'm finding some of the implementations, there's some quality of life things missing. I'm extremely frustrated by the fact that there's no keyboard shortcut to get into a queue where you can just arrow through all of your military units. So once you amass a lot of, I have a lot, because I've been at war with the Egyptians twice. I have 3 settlements that are kind of the 4 settlements that are kind of the back line of my empire, and then I have 3 settlements that are kind of forward and along the DMZ, right, that I have with the Egyptians. So I have lots of units that are staged along that northern border that are fortified, right, and anytime you fortify or you put a unit to sleep, the only way you can tell that they're there is by the little militarized sword icon or whatever, or weapon icon over that unit, which just Civ 7 is a lot more graphically intense, and there's a lot more detail than past versions of Civ have been. And it's just a soup. You can't tell, where all those units are. So, and there's no idle villager or idle military unit implementation like there has been in some other games. So, but by and large, I'm having fun playing it and dealing with the paradigm shifts that they've tried to force on you. I do enjoy that the diplomacy game, which in past iterations of Civ you've been able to largely ignore, that they don't let you get away with that, right? That they kind of force that, by having the AI force that issue and kind of be in your face. There was a challenge that I had to complete in order to, as one of my incremental challenges to progress the age. And I haven't finished all the challenges yet, but one of those was I had to take over an enemy settlement. So although I had been at war with Egypt before, I had to initiate war, right, to complete this challenge so that I could progress to the next age. So it's the combined arms aspect of Civ is still there. I built a ballista, and then it was a peninsula town. So there was no way to assault it entirely from land. And so, and the amount of land on which you could make your approach was very limited, choke point essentially. And so I had to amass a number of troops. I had they have an army commander implementation now. And so in the civilization, that's a legatus, is what that unit is called. And so I had the legatus leading one army attacking from the east. And then I sent another unit around to the northern approach over land. But then I had to make this massive amphibious assault right on the town of 4 units. And again, because you can only attack from one side of a hex at a time, they all had to deploy. Yeah, so I had some units coming from the sea. I had another 2 units coming across a large lake on the approach. So then I staged the ballista, had them take down the fortifications, which took about 3 attacks, and then had the mass army start attacking from multiple sides. And it was a very entrenched enemy who was well advantaged by being inside their city. So it took a number of turns to take this town down. But again, just very satisfying how that unfolded tactically based on the game's design and implementation. So I really enjoyed it. But then, like I said, that bolted onto the diplomatic back and forth because Isabella came to me like after the timer expired, because I think once you declare war, you can't go back and sue for peace for like 10 turns. So there was still this period of time when like troops were maneuvering all along that northern border, and it was a big game of like cat and mouse of who was going to do what. But then Isabella approached me to make a peace treaty. Her initial offer was for her to take back the town that I had defeated and occupied. But fortunately, I didn't just push the default, but I actually played around with like making different offers, and I found that, oh no, she will accept if I say that not only do I want to keep the town that I already invaded and am occupying, but I also want you to give me another town. So I submitted that to her, and she actually took that offer. So, and then again, just interesting, like the whole unfolding theater battle. That town is in the far northeastern corner, well distanced from the rest of my empire. Territory of hers is in between me and that one satellite town. So that was the town that I actually chose to upgrade to a city to make it a big production center. So it has the capacity to like create its own military units and create a lot of fortifications. And then I started ferrying and deploying troops like overland to get up there, which was for some of them was a very long journey. So just really satisfying kind of unfolding, story in your head, using your imagination. There's enough meat there and hooks to paint that kind of tapestry in the background. And I get it. They've tried to lower the level of detail so that there's not as much of a learning curve, and there's not as much, kind of like we talked about Avowed, stuff in your windshield of somebody like getting to the fun of the game. And so I appreciate that. As a grognard, like I'm cranky about some of the things that are missing, but I'm trying to deal with them and get through it. So it's a good amount of fun.
Nice. All right, so for my second game here, I had a kind of a fighting game itch this past week, actually last few days. So I jumped back into Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I was playing that on my Steam Deck. Plays very well. It's kind of cel shaded, so it looks really good too. Yeah, I just started jumping back into that, and I was playing through just going through the story again. I initially jumped into Goku's story because I think there's a bunch of people. I don't even know how many like different. You can't do all the characters. There's a lot of characters, but there's like just a set amount of characters they have right now that you can go through like their story mode, and it's just going through all the different animes when you go through them. So I started with Goku, and then I'm kind of jumping back and forth between him, Vegeta, excuse me, Piccolo, and Gohan. Just kind of going through their stories, kind of trying to keep them around the same kind of area, like where they're at. Like right now, I had just finished the Android saga with Goku, and I just started the Majin Buu saga. So I kind of stopped there with Goku, and I'm trying to like get to that spot with those other guys, just kind of keep pace. So just going through that, and there was I don't want to say it's there's like one of the fights you can do in there. I think it's early on, and I think it's during the Frieza saga. I think it's the last fight with Frieza. You get a good amount of money. You get like I think 300,000 Zenny. I think it's called in the Dragon Ball universe. So you get that, and then the first time you go through it, you get, I think you unlock a costume or something, or like not a costume. You actually unlock one of the characters from the game or from the anime. But if you go back and keep doing it, you still get, you only get, I think 1,000 or 10,000 or something Zenny. But then because you already beat it before, and I think I might have mentioned this too before, that every time you beat another, you beat a level again, because you can go back and just keep doing them if you want. That if you unlock like a character, it converts that character into money for you. So since I've already done it, you can get like 300,000 like each hit. So I remember I was grinding that last time I played, the last few times I played. So I got a good amount of money, and that's still in there. It's still in the game. I was testing that out too. I was kind of surprised. So I mean, it's that's part of the single player like story, so it's not hurting any, that doesn't do anything for as far as like the multiplayer stuff you can do. But that's still kind of in there. I was kind of surprised it kind of left that in there because there's a lot of money, because I think I got over like 2 million, maybe even 3 million when I was kind of grinding that the last time. So, but once I kind of, that was like one of the first things I did once I got back into it. And then now I'm just kind of going through the story. So it's fun. I like it's, it's each iteration of these games. It's like, they can't get better than, the last one. But yeah, this one is just like, graphically it's just really great. Like even on the Steam Deck, it's just gorgeous. So when you hit somebody and they go flying into like a mountainside, or if you're in a city and like into a building and it just like breaks apart and like explosions and stuff. So it looks like exactly like the anime. It's a really nice looking game. So been going through that, having a lot of fun. All right, so Monster Hunter Wilds. You had mentioned this a little bit before. What's going on with Monster Hunter?
Again, a game that probably needs a good amount of optimization and patches. One major one came down today, so I guess it's just come out in the last couple of weeks. I think it's just in excess of a gig, so it's a 1.2 gig patch, something like that. But at least I'm not super happy with the frame rate right now, but at least that is a frame rate where it's 1440p native, with everything turned on, right? So I'm at ultra settings. I can't remember. Yes, ultra settings. So on an RTX 3080 Ti with a Ryzen 9 7950X CPU, I'm getting normally right in the mid 70s, right, for a frame rate. Sometimes going up as high as into the mid 90s, 99. No dips down below 60. But sometimes I'll get some dips down to like 71 ish. So I'm not super happy with the performance, but it's also not horrible. I think I had to back off of like one graphical setting. I can't remember what that was, but I definitely had to get in and tweak it, right? I couldn't just let it run. Whereas for the last couple of years, I've just been able to like push go, right, and not spend any time like dorking with a game. So first of all, I'm not a Monster Hunter expert. I've played a little bit of Monster Hunter World, a little bit of Monster Hunter Rise. What I will say is, from a combat perspective, this has been the most satisfying first couple of hours that I've spent in a Monster Hunter game across the last 3 iterations. We talked about Monster Hunter World. I personally feel the onboarding in Monster Hunter World is kind of horrible. Monster Hunter Rise, better onboarding, but there's a lot of hash and trash like on the front end. With this game, there's a little bit of cruft to get through. Like first 30 minutes was all like admin and logistics, lots of cutscenes, the game taking the controller out of your hand. But thereafter, I mean, it's pretty meaty combat. And there's not hash and trash. There was one sequence of hash and trash, but like other than that, like it's meaty, big monsters, challenging, and so taking them down, was satisfying. I'm sure it's going to get harder from here on out. Again, I'm not a Monster Hunter combat expert. Some of the things that I'm aggravated with by combat, like, and I say it's been the most satisfying first couple of hours I spent. I was yelling and screaming and cursing at the monitor like the entire time. And part of that is probably I'm playing with Lance, which is I think like the largest, heaviest weapon in the game, at least at the outset. You're just kind of a tank, and so it has good defensive capabilities, so that's probably helping a lot. But you are just not very maneuverable at all. The dodge, it feels like you move like 2 inches. And I don't like you pull L trigger for focus, but that's not lock on. So unlike like in a Souls game, or even was it Dynasty Warriors Origins that's a lock on feature, right? So other games that we've played recently, it's a lock on feature. This is not a lock on feature. So you could pull L trigger and point yourself at the monster, but you can also like be pointing in the wrong direction, like after you make a few passes and parries and pirouettes. I also, again, this is probably partially a skill issue, but I feel like I went into the little training area that you eventually get exposed to in this temporary base that they set up, and I feel like I was able to pull off like a lot of the maneuvers and the double button presses and the special attacks. And then like the next monster that I encountered after that, I was like, none of this stuff is working. There's a mode that I can't tell. At first I thought I was getting into like a crouch mode, but now I'm starting to think it's just how you are with the lance. Like again, your maneuverability is so low that like if a monster moves like 5 feet from you, it's like you got to get on the, I forget what the mount is called that you're given. It's basically a tauntaun. You have to get on your tauntaun, right, and go chase the thing down. Like if it gets more than 5 feet from me with that lance thing on, like I'm just not catching him because I move at like feels like an inch per hour. But I have taken down the first 2 monsters. So I took down the Chatacabra, I took down the Quematrice, and that was satisfying. And the Quematrice has like, you know, fire and an AoE fire attack, and you know, there's a point in the battle where like you knock off a big part of its of its carapace. So those things are satisfying. You know, in your Palico like tries to help you out, and I'm like, it's kind of like in Avowed. I'm like, I don't know if this guy's doing anything effective, but yeah, like the first few hours of combat have been very satisfying. There's a couple things that detract from that. There's a part of the storytelling where I talked about the mount. They're not called a tauntaun. They're called I forget, something that starts with an S. But there's a point where you have the tauntaun, and then they take the tauntaun away from you. And they take the tauntaun away from you for like 10 minutes of like story time, right? And then like the next engagement you have, they give you the tauntaun back, right? So they give you this impression that you're going to lose access to this mount, and then they give it right back. And I'm like, I don't understand what the storytelling point of that was. Like, it seems pretty like whatever. So, but I was like, thank God, like, because I would have never caught this thing if they didn't bring like the tauntaun back. And then I say that onboarding is better. It's better than Monster Hunter Worlds. It's still not good, right? There's a ton of stuff that happens in the first few fights where they're constantly popping up things in your face, like, you know, use your R stick to open this thing. I'm like, I don't need to be told to like use my right stick to open like this radial menu, right? I need to be told that once, maybe twice. Like 2 hours into the game, I don't need you to keep telling me. And I don't need you occluding part of my screen, right? Giving me that pop up like at the top of my screen. So there's things like that. I find the weapon upgrading and like the progression and the crafting, all those things seem pretty good. You know, I'm not dissatisfied with those. They do a little like cutscene animation thing when the smith like upgrades your weapons and your armor. I found a lot of those things kind of interesting. You know, I've already started like changing my look based on monsters that I've taken down and like utilizing ingredients from them or their hides or things to improve my armor and change the look. And I'm not sure. I feel like Avowed has like some things where like when you progress and upgrade weapons, there's no cosmetic change to it. So that kind of, you know, makes you wish that there was more of that. Whereas in Monster Hunter Worlds, I feel like there's a ton of like cosmetic changes that happen like every time you change something. Monster Hunter Wild, sorry. So that part has been pretty satisfying. I haven't had a huge amount of problem with the pacing other than that goofy, you know, taking the tauntaun away from you for 10 minutes type of thing. You know, world building, that feels pretty neat. Like there's, as you get past that first part where it feels like they're constantly taking the controller out of your hand and kind of slowing the game down, right, and making you a spectator. I feel like they get better about that as that goes along. Like it still happens, but it doesn't last as long. So it doesn't feel as impactful, right? So I'm having fun with it. It probably is going to lead to a Monster Hunter game that I stick with for a little longer than the other ones. So I'm having a good time with it. You know, not super happy with performance on PC, but hopefully that will get better. Also not as bad as I've seen a lot of the social media comments, which seem to kind of cherry pick like the people who are playing it with the most anemic software having the most problems with the biggest problem with image rendering. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of those things are being made out to be. Not to say that the game doesn't need work, and also not to give Capcom a pass, because Dragon's Dogma 2 came out in similar state with all sorts of technical problems, and that game still has not been fixed right to this day with its image quality problems and rendering problems and performance problems. So I'm hoping, since Monster Hunter Wilds is a bigger kind of tentpole franchise for them, that their approach on this one will be better. But as of today, I'm assuming that it's not. I'm just hoping that it will.
All right. Just go say hey to Joe Samoa. I just jumped in the chat. He said Secret SP, I think, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that comment from him when you were talking there.
No, I'm not sure whether the comment meant.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's jump into this is my final game here that I'll talk about here. I've been jumping back into No Man's Sky a little bit this past week, mostly on the Steam Deck. I did play it on one other thing I'll talk about here in a second, but they have their Titans expedition going on right now, so I'm kind of plugging away at that right now. Just kind of going through like 4 or 5 different kind of quests you got to do. Well, I should say it's split into 5 sections, and I think each quest has like usually like 5 or 6 things you got to do. So plugging away at that. I just got past the first one now, so I'm on the second set of quests. So I'll jump through that. The other thing I played on was, and I forgot to put it on here, but I tried to play VR last night for the first time, which I just kept forgetting about it. I was having some problems, just kind of technically. I was running it, and I was able to like walk around the planet that I was on and everything, but and it gives you like the hints, like because this is the first time I played, so it gives you like a hint of how you do stuff. You reach behind your shoulder to like pull out your multi-tool and stuff like that. But at one point, I was kind of running around, just kind of collecting stuff and shooting stuff, like those little stupid little plants, the poison plants that like shoot out like a gas cloud at you and hurt you and stuff like that, or it's like a Venus flytrap almost, another one. So it's kind of just hitting those. Though I came back to my ship. I was trying to figure out how to get on my ship. I have no idea how to do that. To get out was kind of cool. Like there's like a handle that you kind of look to your left, and you can kind of just physically like push up on it, and you get out of your ship. But it didn't give me any kind of hint on how I'm supposed to get back in, so I don't know how to get back into my ship. So I got to figure that out. But then all of a sudden I lost my multi-tool. Like I just couldn't pull it out anymore. So I don't know if it was just like a glitch in the software or whatever. But I didn't have time to shut down and restart it. But I'm gonna try it after the show tonight and see if I can do a little bit more than just kind of walk around and shoot at stuff. But it looked really nice. I mean, obviously it doesn't look like when you're just playing on flat screen, but it looks pretty cool just to walk around on a planet and see your ship kind of like there, like in front of you, like this huge ship that I'm using now. So it's kind of cool, but having a lot of fun with that, and hopefully I'll be able to play a little bit more in VR. But I'll definitely play more on my Steam Deck just to kind of get through this expedition that's going on now. So, but if I don't finish it, they always do the end of the year expeditions again, so I can always jump back into it there if I don't get a chance this time. And I'm not sure. I haven't seen what you usually get, like some kind of big reward, either a ship or like a skin or something. So I'm not sure what this expedition gives you. It's kind of the expedition overall is kind of going through. They have the gas giant planets now, so they're kind of like showing you how that works out. And there's like a new purple star system that you can go into, which in the regular game I think you have to get like a new hyperdrive so you can go to that system and stuff like that. But here they're kind of just showing you like here it is, that this is what you'll see as you're going through it. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, definitely gonna keep going through that. And then you can have one more game here, looks like, that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I just figured it out actually before Josama said it in the chat, but I realized while you were briefing that he was actually trying to clue me into what the Tauntaun things are called in Monster Hunter Wild. I think they're called secrets, which I think the spelling that I put in the chat is correct. I think, but yes, it's that's what those things are called. I still colloquially refer to them as tauntauns, so it's probably going to continue to be difficult for me to remember what they're actually called. But the last game on the rundown for us to talk about is Sniper Elite Resistance. So I have been playing this on a system with a AMD Ryzen 5 5600X and a RTX 3070 Ti. This is a game which has been very well performant, as you can see here in the MSI Afterburner. I'm typically at 112, 115 frames per second. Often because the frame rate capping, I think it either doesn't have frame rate cap or the frame rate cap doesn't work. And so the GPU will be putting out more frames than the monitor could possibly render. But it is a 240 hertz monitor, so I don't worry too much about the overhead. But I've been having a lot of fun with this one. Again, this is an imperfect game. This is not, going to be game of the year or anything like that. But and it still kind of suffers in my mind from, a game that is supposed to be heavily, tilted in the direction of stealth. But for me, due to my impatience, like I'm just not going to stealth. Like for you to do the mission completely with stealth, it's going to take you like 2 hours to do a mission, and it already takes like 45 minutes to an hour to do a mission. I try and play it itself for the beginning of the mission as much as I can, but then like when it breaks, I just kind of go through waves of, what I want to say, a tactical kind of guerrilla combat where like I do hide, but I do try and take people out. But then eventually I get to a point where I try and, do the GTA 6 Need for Speed, like cooldown, to get people to chill out. But I like, same thing that I talked about a few weeks ago. I like the mission structures in here. The game continues to perform well. Trying to get to some sequences you can get into, as you see, like I'm stuck behind, like crouched behind the corner thing for like several minutes while I'm trying to watch the pattern on these guys. Every once in a while it can get a little ridiculous kind of in where you intuitively think they are not seeing you, but then they do, like that kind of bureau or whatever I was crouched behind. The foliage back there is equivalently as high as any like the tall grass that you see, and you would have provided me some coverage, but like it didn't. So I think we're gonna get one melee here. So of course now this body is exposed. So like I said, there's a lot of kind of Hitman type of combat where I got to drop this body behind the crates and hope this other guy doesn't see. Oh wait, am I trying to cure? I can't tell if I've caught the second guy just because like the pacing on this combat is so slow. Yeah, so like he saw me and I was like I should have offered some concealment. So. But then I slip around behind him and take him out with melee. Much in the same way that we talked about Avowed, like this game gives you a ton of tools to go at taking people down. Like you're effective at melee, you're effective with short range weapons. Your pistol with a silencer on it is very effective. You get a submachine gun. Your rifles. I'm gonna see if. We can get to the beginning of the sequence, and if it doesn't take forever to watch it. So this is one where I've deliberately taken a sniper rifle that doesn't have as long range of scope as like the baseline one that they provide you at the beginning of the game, because I've now gone into the game and played enough where I've gotten access to other weapons. I talked to DBQ about this. There's kind of a bounty mission here where you're supposed to kill this one guy, Ludwig Spiegel, who's not like part of the mission, but he just happens to be a target of interest that they're like, hey, if you find this guy, take him out. So just here by happenstance, right? Like there's nothing in the mission telling me to like just by happenstance, I'm scoping it on the binoculars to try and get the lay of the land of tactically like what's going on at this bridge. And I just happened to scope a guy who was that target. So, and then, the baseline rifle that you have, this scope would almost take me all the way into the bridge, right? The zoom level on it. This doesn't have nearly that scope, that zoom level, but here, I don't know if it's gonna happen before we have to get out of here. But I'm zooming in on him, and I'm just going to Kentucky windage, right? Until I can think like BAP, right? And so it's like incredibly satisfying, like when you pull off like some things like that. And so the game offers challenge, but then the game also allows you to be skilled enough to pull off, some things. And I think I popped the Chivo there for hitting a target, or maybe I'll pop it here in a little bit for hitting a target or taking out a target at a distance of greater than 300 meters in this mission. So yeah, I just popped it there. So yeah, I'm having a ton of fun with it. Lots of people argue that it's not the best in the series, and it's not the best game overall that's out right now, but I'm having a ton of fun with it. It's not a run and gun first person shooter, but it definitely scratches that itch that's associated with first person, third person shooters with a lot of the combat sequences in it.
Nice. Yeah, I like how when you were scoping in, when you're in that little, I don't know, the little villa area, like it showed you like the guns that the people had and stuff like that, kind of like their loadout. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, when you hit them with the binos, you will get a lot of intelligence about them, which it's a gamification. Like that wouldn't really happen, but
right.
They're all named. They all have like background associated with them, like whether like a lot of them will come up as like this guy's just a slacker, like he got conscripted in the army, but he's not trying to be like the next general or anything. And then you have other people who are like they're like super evil. This guy's a butcher. He's sadistic. He gets off on killing people. So it's interesting, right? That they flower that out from almost kind of a lore perspective in a game that is of a style and a scope that really like doesn't need it. So it's neat that they pay that level of attention to detail in it.
Yeah, like Watch Dogs back in the day, where you can like see. Although it's kind of weird because obviously this is back in the past. So sorry, might break your immersion a little bit, but at least it gives you the information you need. It's kind of cool. All right, so yeah, that is it for our round robin. So big releases for this coming week. March 11th, we got Rise of the Ronin, which is Koei Tecmo game coming out for PC, and I believe it comes out later in the month for PS5. It looks like only just PS5 and PC. So that's a big one. I know a lot of people are talking about that one. March 14th, we have WWE 2K25 coming out for pretty much everything except for Switch. And then also MLB The Show 25 coming out once again for everything. But actually, that is coming out for the Switch too. So
for everything but PC.
But PC, yeah.
which I lamented about this week that that's like one of those rare games that comes along and I'm like, oh, I don't have consoles anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I guess that's not a really PC thing, but maybe in the future we'll get it on a PC coming up.
I actually thought so the release list that I pulled this from says it was on Xbox. I thought it was actually not going to Xbox this year.
MLB? It just won't be on Game Pass. It's just
okay. Yep, that's a good point. Okay,
yeah, no Game Pass game for that one. So unfortunately, so I'll be skipping this year. So I'll just play it on my Switch because I think that's the 2 years ago. I think I bought it on the Switch. So play back at 23, I guess. That's all right. Yeah. So anything you're looking forward to on that one this week or?
No, I'll probably be. I mean, unless I get the itch to go out and grab a console simply to play MLB, which I probably won't do just because Apple dropped all their new gear last year, and I've got these GPU things which are now making me Jones for upgrades. So I probably won't do that. I will probably hold off this week and continue to push through Sniper Elite, Civilization 7, Monster Hunter Wilds. I still haven't gotten back to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And I'll put in more Avowed, and I will probably pump my brakes and hold off because we have Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out the week after this.
Yeah, definitely look forward to that one. Yeah, Rise of the Ronin actually looks pretty cool too. It's big open world RPG. Back in the medieval, or not medieval, but back in the past of China. So, but I'll probably wait on all these two. And I haven't really played a wrestling game in a while, so other than kind of those that janky went on a plane on that I got off of Steam. But yeah, I haven't played any of the WWE ones in a long time, but we'll see. Maybe one day. I don't think those have ever come to Game Pass at all. So not that I've seen. I think they come up on like the free to play weekend sometimes. Maybe I can jump into there one time, just check it out because it's been a long time. But yeah, nothing so far out of those ones. I'll probably pick up. same thing. I'll be playing Avowed and still playing. Even though I didn't mention here, I'm still playing a lot of Marvel Rivals. So that's kind of my trinity now. It's Fortnite, Rocket League, and now Marvel Rivals. That kind of in my regular rotation that I'll play. A game or two here or there every so often throughout the day or the week. So that is it for episode number 378. Thank you, Joe and Nate, and anybody else who might have stopped by in the comments. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Game Logic, for joining me. Please join us next week, where should be on hopefully normal time on Sunday. We're a little bit late this week, but just because of some tech issues. But DBQ will be the host. Hopefully, he'll be back next week, and we should be good to go. Please take care of yourselves out there. Play those games, and we will see you next time.